Another team that I think is flying up the league at the minute and really catching the eye. We've mentioned them before on the podcast. Is Bournemouth, Dave, who kind of swapping places with Fulham in the table, who have lost three in a row now. I think beating them 3-0 this week, and looking impressive, really impressive. And Andoni Iraola has got Bournemouth playing a style of football now that looks really clinical and dynamic on the attack, doesn't it? And the patience that the board and the fans have shown in him is really paying off. And I know that's cliche because he was probably maybe one defeat away from being sacked, wasn't he, at the start of the season after the terrible run they had at the beginning. But there's a few players in this win that really showed some of the promise that this team can have going forward. Solanke's Dominic Solanke's finding the best form of his career, I think, and that's I think in no small part down to Iraola. The setup is built for Solanke to thrive, and he had done in the last few games. Tavernier and Semenyo played really well again. Clivert scored a goal. I haven't seen that for a while. It seems still quite novel to see a Clivert on the score sheet, doesn't it? And Alex Scott as well getting a game, and his run to set up the goal for Clivert was fantastic. So the way they're playing, it's really pleasing on the eye, and I'm really pleased for the guy because he had a tough start to his life at Bournemouth, didn't he, Iraola? But he's proven the doubters wrong.
It's got a little bit sort of an air of I think the squad effort of Newcastle last year. It's got a little bit of an air of that about it. This Bournemouth team because they've had a few injuries as well. A few players that haven't been available. Lewis Cook
Yeah,
obviously was in for this game. Kirkez is injured. Tyler Adams hasn't been available. Hamid Traore's been ill, I think, for 3 or 4 games as well. Who looked really promising in this team as well. And I think the stat is, which is quite interesting actually, which shows actually the contribution a lot of this team, and particularly offensively. 13 players in this team in the Premier League have one or more assists in the league.
wow.
Highest assist maker they've got is Marcus Tavernier with just 3. So I think it just goes to show that a lot of there's a lot of creativity kind of all throughout the team and players who are making a contribution, not just at the back. There's a lot of defenders in there who are providing a bit of imagination as well going forward. You mentioned Alex Scott there. That the way
Mm.
he created that goal was outstanding. And look, this is a player who I think it was a deal worth up to 25 million. Which is it's a big deal
Steal
really
that.
for a Championship player. Be interesting actually to know, that in terms of Championship players moving to the Premier League, how where that is on sort of the in the table for most expensive
Mm.
transfers from
True.
Championship. Um, but he looks like a real player. And last season, I think he got young player of the year from the Championship. He looked really good for Bristol City. I think Pep Guardiola came out and said, he looks like a top class player. Jack Grealish said, had some big words about him as well. When they played them in the FA Cup. So it's promising times for them. I think you look at like Dominic Solanke. I think actually speaks volumes with the amount of goals that he's actually scoring this year. Is that the team are built around him, and
Yeah,
he's finally getting the service that he deserves. And 12 league goals in 18 Premier League games is
yeah, it's
an
brilliant.
outstanding record so far. And it'd be interesting to see how he does that, what he ends up on the end of the season, because it's only this last 7 or 8 games that Bournemouth have really put a run together. I think it's 6 wins in the last seven league games. I think they're probably the
Yeah.
informed team in the league at the minute. They've really turned it around, and Solanke is pivotal to that. His goals are really everything, but it's really good to just see everyone else contributing. Sinisterra, what a goal that was! What a strike! Um,
Yeah.
it seems like their recruitment is actually coming together at the minute, because a lot of the players are really performing, and it's a
Yeah.
team performance. It's not just the individuals like we've mentioned.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? When you watch Bournemouth, and this game was like the biggest example of that, all the players had a very clear role to play, and they all played their part brilliantly. They're all geared towards attacking in a certain way. And as you say, Solanke has not really had the kind of service in his career that he's having now. Apart from when Bournemouth went down to the Championship for a couple of seasons and the standard dropped, and he scored quite a few goals in the Championship. This is the first of Dominic Solanke we've seen where his potential looks like it's fulfilled, because he's a different kind of striker, isn't he, to most Premier League strikers. He's not the most orthodox forward, and he needs that kind of level of service to kind of accommodate the way he plays and the kind of space he needs. And he's kind of finding that space now brilliantly. And that's all engineered by the way this attack revolves around him. And I'm glad because he was an absolute shining star for the England team that won the under-17s World Cup, I think it was, wasn't it? He was like one of the star players. He's come through the England youth ranks. He's obviously played at the top level for sort of Chelsea and Liverpool. And he had that potential to do brilliantly. And there were doubts. I had doubts about Solanke, but there might be, maybe, an outside small chance that he could get England recognition in the next few months, maybe. Even as an experiment, if he continues his form. And I know there's not much time left until the Euro squad announcement, but surely he's one of the most informed English strikers, so therefore he deserves a chance, right?
Absolutely. For me, I think the only thing he's got going against him is there's limited opportunity really for him to kind of make a
Yeah.
mark. And something we actually said was quite unfortunate really for younger players that are coming through and sort of really pulling in the likes of Cole Palmer as well.
Yeah.
There's not many opportunities now, I think, between then the actual tournament for them to actually pull on that England jersey and kind of have an audition, so to speak. But I think outside of Ollie Watkins, Callum Wilson's had an opportunity already, but Newcastle are struggling at the minute. Who's to say whether he can, whether he can't? I think he should get an opportunity, and whether he does get that before the tournament itself will be interesting to see. Like I mentioned, we know how competitive that squad is, particularly in the attacking areas. I think there'll be 2 or 3 spots potentially for a striker. I think Ollie Watkins is going to be the other by the looks of it. So is there space, for Solanke to push Callum Wilson out of the equation?
Yeah, I think there's in terms of form, I think that's probably the more realistic option to be fair. But Bournemouth flying. They are 12th in the league now. They're only behind 10th place on goal difference, but they've got a game in hand over the teams above them, Wolves and Chelsea, and a very realistic chance of going into the top 10, which I think is an incredible statement of how much progress they've made under Iraola since that terrible run at the start of the season. So well played to Bournemouth.